The Galactic Assembly was no stranger to newcomers. Over the centuries, hundreds of civilizations had been welcomed into its fold, some warlike, others peaceful, many curious. But never once had the Illyrians refused to greet a new species. Until Earth humanity's invitation to join the assembly had been long anticipated. After decades of signals, probes, and peaceful exploration beyond their solar system, humans had finally advanced far enough to be noticed. The ceremony was simple by galactic standards and introduction, a pledge of cooperation and the symbolic sharing of knowledge. Delegates from dozens of species gathered in orbit around Proxima Centauri to witness Earth's entry into the wider galactic stage. But the Illyrians, the oldest and most revered race in the galaxy, were absent. Their decision was not announced. It was not debated or explained. They simply did not come. Their station in the assembly remained unlit. Their majestic ships, known for shimmering like liquid starlight, stayed well beyond Sol's edge. Some observers noted that Illyrian vessels even adjusted course to avoid drifting too close to Earth's space. It wasn't aggression. It wasn't diplomacy. It was distance, quiet, calculated, and absolute. Ambassador Jorah Marin of Earth, freshly appointed and eager to represent humanity, noticed the absence immediately. "Why aren't the Illyrians here?" she asked a fellow delegate from the Thorin Confederacy. The Thorin representative, a towering figure wrapped in iridescent cloth, hesitated. "They offered no words, but their ships will not enter your system. They have not for some time." Jorah frowned. "Have they done this before?" The delegate answered, glancing toward the stars. "Never." The mystery stirred quiet concern within Earth's leadership. For a species known for their ancient wisdom and cautious diplomacy, the Illyrians' behavior was unusual and unprecedented, even. It wasn't just their absence at the ceremony, it was the lack of communication. Altogether, not a single message. Not a single word. News of the snub spread rapidly across galactic networks. Speculation swirled. Some suggested the Illyrians were testing humanity's resolve. Others believed it was a sign of disapproval, perhaps linked to Earth's turbulent history. A few hinted at something stranger, something hidden. Back on Earth, the public was divided. Some viewed the silence as an insult. Others, more cautious, considered it a warning. In a command center beneath Geneva, Admiral Kai Mendoza met with representatives from Earth's new Interstellar Outreach Council. "Have we done anything that might offend them?" one council member asked. "No," Admiral Mendoza replied. "Every action, every protocol has followed established galactic customs. We've done everything right." "Then what are they afraid of?" Another whispered. The question hung in the air. Meanwhile, scientists from Earth and its lunar research stations began to investigate possible explanations. Dr. Lynn Aravallo, a xenolinguist specializing in Illyrian behavior, studied centuries of recorded interactions between the Illyrians and other species they've never feared before. She said during a press briefing, "They have guided, observed, even scolded, but never avoided." Her analysis highlighted one unsettling pattern. Illyrians had distanced themselves from only one other world in recorded history, a planet called Viridian 6. That world had since disappeared, lost to a cosmic event the Illyrians never explained. When asked if Earth might share similarities with Viridian 6, Dr. Aravallo hesitated. "It's too soon to draw conclusions, but the silence is not without precedent, and precedent matters." In orbit, Earth's first deep-range exploration ship, the Horizon Wind, was preparing for launch. Its mission had already shifted. Now, it wasn't just exploration, it was discovery. Perhaps even defense. Ambassador Jorah stood before the ship's viewport. "Gazing into the dark beyond the solar system, they see something," she said quietly. "And whatever it is, honey, they don't. Want to get close?" The stars remained silent. But Earth had heard the message loud and clear. Something about humanity unsettled even the galaxy's oldest race. While Earth celebrated its entry into the Galactic Assembly, the absence of the Illyrians cast a long shadow. The ancient species. Silence had become more than a mystery, it had become a symbol. Every fleet that passed through the outer edge of Sol's territory reported the same. Illyrian vessels adjusted their course, refusing even to drift into Earth's star system. First, the Illyrians' avoidance was written off as caution, or perhaps some ancient cultural custom. But now, systems neighboring Earth began to notice the same behavior. The Illyrians would approach to map a sector, then shift away the moment Earth's influence touched the region. It wasn't avoidance, it was Rora Marin. Stood before a three-dimensional star chart aboard the United Earth diplomatic ship Envoy. Parked in orbit over Mars, red rings outlined the invisible barrier where Illyrian ships stopped. As the pattern emerged, the map began to look like a protective shell. One they were refusing to cross. "They're not avoiding us," she said during a council transmission. "They're circling us, watching, like we're a fire they don't want to spread." On Earth, researchers pooled every resource into understanding why. Historical records, ancient cosmic myths, and alien archives were scoured for references to similar events. The Illyrians were known to document everything, yet when it came to Earth, their records were sparse and eerily incomplete. Pages were missing, timelines skipped over key events. Dr. Lynn Arivalo, who had now become Earth's leading Illyrian behavior analyst, raised a theory that made many uncomfortable. "This may be more than fear," she said during a broadcast to the Assembly. "This could be recognition. They may have seen something like us before, something they couldn't stop." Across the galaxy, other races began to notice. Delegates from newer civilizations reached out to Earth with curiosity and caution. "If the Illyrians are avoiding you," said a scholar from the Jurenan worlds, "perhaps you're standing near something ancient, something not even they want to wake up." The Galactic Assembly, pressured by growing questions, held a special inquiry. Earth was asked to present its scientific findings on any unusual planetary activity. Satellite data was brought forward. It showed small but steady anomalies beneath the Earth's crust, rhythmic pulses that appeared every few weeks. Harmless, undetectable to the untrained eye. But when compared to similar readings from deep space anomalies catalogued by long ago, the signature patterns matched. Admiral Kai Mendoza reviewed the findings with quiet concern. "This isn't just about us," he said in a closed-door meeting. "This could be something buried in the planet, something older than humanity, something watching us as closely as they are." Meanwhile, high above the outer planets, Earth's first long-range vessel, the Horizon Wind, reached its next checkpoint near Pluto's orbit. Aboard, a young pilot named Lieutenant Mika Tran picked up a faint signal and energy fluctuation that seemed to shift when human biosigns approached. It wasn't a message. It wasn't random either. It was responsive. She reported the reading to Mission Control. The signal, when amplified, revealed a repeating pattern, almost like a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not artificial, and definitely not human. The Illyrians remained silent. Across the stars, news broadcasts spread across alien networks. Earth, surrounded by unknown signals, Illyrians still refused to respond. The galaxy didn't know what to think anymore. Was Earth a mystery, a mistake, or something more? Back on Earth, Rora Marin stood beneath the night sky, the stars brighter than ever. Behind her, humanity had entered a new age. Before her lay a question deeper than space itself. "They're not afraid of what we are now," she whispered. "They're afraid of what we might become." The stars offered no answer, but someone or something was watching. The mystery deepened, not in orbit, but beneath the feet of every human on Earth. in the frozen expanse of Antarctica. Where few dared to travel and fewer still stayed, a quiet anomaly began drawing attention. It started with satellites. Several Earth-observing systems, both public and classified, began registering subtle electromagnetic disturbances centered near the Gamburtsov mountain range, an area long known for unusual seismic calm. The disturbances weren't strong enough to be dangerous, but they pulsed with perfect rhythm, every 10 hours, without fail. At first, scientists believed it was a malfunction. Then the pattern repeated over several weeks, as more sensors confirmed the same readings. The conclusion became clear. The pulses were real, and they were coming from deep underground. The United Earth Science Division launched a covert expedition. Leading the team was Dr. Kenji Owada, a geophysicist who had spent most of his life studying tectonic resonance. What he found beneath the ice astonished even him. 3 kilometers below the surface lay a perfectly symmetrical structure, half buried in ancient rock. It was non-metallic, but harder than any known Earth-based material. No tool could cut into it, no scan could penetrate it, and no dating technique could determine its age. All instruments could detect was its rhythm, calm, methodical, and unnervingly similar to the unknown signal detected by the horizon wind. "We may be standing on something that predates humanity itself," Dr. Owada whispered as he recorded the findings. "Maybe even life on this planet." Back in orbit, Commander Aidan Cross of the Horizon Wind reviewed the data stream. The pulse they had recorded beyond Pluto was identical in timing and pattern. The implication was hard to accept, but impossible to ignore. Earth was not simply the source of mystery. It was part of something larger, something connected. When news of the underground structure reached Ambassador Jorah Marin, she requested a meeting with senior galactic analysts. Most were baffled. Some were quietly alarmed. One, however, reacted with immediate recognition. A Serenian historian named Valari, whose species valued memory above all else, leaned forward during the session. "There is a legend," she said. "One told 2 children on many worlds, of a force that sleeps, not in space, but in worlds shaped to hide it. A rhythm that speaks not in language, but in time." "Have the Illyrians ever commented on this?" Jorah asked. "They refused to speak of it," Valari answered. "But they charted its patterns long ago, unplaced warnings around the worlds it touched. When Earth's name was mentioned, the Serenian grew quiet. Back on Earth, scientists tried to decode the pulse, breaking it into frequency, pattern, and resonance. What they discovered was startling. The pulse matched several harmonic frequencies found in human brainwaves during deep sleep. The same range was also used by Illyrian starships to stabilize their long-range communications. 2 unrelated technologies. One shared rhythm. Speculation turned to possibility. What if Earth wasn't just emitting the signal? What if it was responding to something? In the following weeks, an increasing number of humans reported vivid visions of swirling stars. Ancient cities submerged in light and circular structures echoing with soundless messages. Most dismissed them as coincidence. Others weren't so sure. Lieutenant Mika Tren, still aboard the Horizon Wind, experienced her first dream the same night the Antarctic structure pulsed stronger than ever. She woke with one phrase repeating in her mind, though she didn't know the language. Valari shown her written account, paled. It means, "Do not return the key to the door." As tension across the assembly mounted, stood at the heart of a growing storm. The Illyrians still said nothing. But now, others began to whisper. The structure was not made by humans. The signal was not new. And the fear of the oldest race in the galaxy might not be superstition, but memory. A memory Earth was about to wake, far beyond the outer planets, drifting silently through the Yort. Cloud, a damaged Illyrian scout vessel, was discovered by the exploration cruiser Seraphis, an Earth-led ship patrolling the edge of human space. The vessel was lifeless, its silvery hull torn by what appeared to be internal energy feedback. There were no signs of combat, no distress signal, just silence and strange burn marks etched into the metal. Shaped like arcs and spirals, the Illyrians had never lost a ship within human territory before. Upon recovery, Earth's Scientific Council petitioned for immediate examination of the craft. It was a bold move and unprecedented, even but the Galactic Assembly approved it under emergency protocols. The fact that the Illyrians did not object was perhaps the most unsettling part. Inside the ship, the crew of Seraphis discovered a central archive sphere standard on all Illyrian exploration vessels. Normally encrypted beyond comprehension, this sphere was partially damaged, exposing fragments of stored data. When human engineers and linguistic AI reconstructed what they could, they found maps, patterns, and a name .Earth, not just coordinates. Earth's name written in Illyrian, not once, but repeated interlaced with warning symbols. Dr. Lynn Arivalo, reviewing the decrypted data at Geneva's Orbital Science Station, stared at the images in silence. Among the fragments was a still image, a glowing structure buried in a landscape, unmistakably similar to Earth's Antarctic terrain. The Illyrians knew, she said. They found the structure before we ever launched our first satellite. And they never told anyone. The most chilling find came next a single phrase, recorded in an emergency log from the Illyrian ship's last moments. It was audio, heavily distorted, but after days of careful cleaning, the message became clear. Do not let it hear you. In the Galactic Assembly, whispers turned into concern. Delegates began asking why the Illyrians had charted and marked Earth as early as the pre-assembly era, but never interfered. Why had they never warned others? Why had they remained silent when Earth first broadcasted signals into space? The only conclusion? They had been waiting to see if Earth would awaken something on its own. As pressure mounted, a single Illyrian Vasilla, diplomatic envoy, peered briefly at the edge of the Sol system. It did not enter. It did not broadcast. It only released a small object before disappearing again into the stars. The object was recovered by the horizon wind. It was crystalline and encoded with Illyrian symbols. It carried no threat, no instructions, only a message. Played aloud during a private council on Earth. You are the first since the silence to walk that path. We do not cross it again. Not because you are unworthy, but because we once were. The cryptic admission sparked debate. What was the silence? What had the Illyrians once done, nor failed to stop? And what did they fear Earth was now becoming? In Antarctica, the structure's pulse began to change. No longer rhythmic. It fluctuated like breath drawn in and held. Instruments picked up a faint humming sound, not carried through air, but through stone and ice. As though the Earth itself had begun to resonate. Lieutenant Mika Tran now returned. From the horizon wind, volunteered to join the research team on the ground. When she stood at the edge of the excavation shaft, the humming intensified. Monitors lit up with brief surges of energy. She stepped back. It faded. The scientists exchanged glances. It's responding to her. Someone said, back at the assembly, a quiet consensus began to form among the elder species. Earth was no longer a curiosity. It was a threshold. Something was listening beneath their world. And now, it had heard them. For weeks after Mika Tran's presence caused a measurable reaction from the structure beneath Antarctica, Earth's scientific and diplomatic communities worked in unison. The pulse was no longer just an anomaly. It was an interaction. Something down there wasn't just active, it was aware. On the surface, news of the phenomenon was kept from the public. Earth's leaders feared panic, especially when the word response began appearing in scientific reports. But behind closed doors, a growing number of experts believed something even more unsettling. It was not only the structure that was responding to Mika, but something within her that had responded first. Geneticists began cross-referencing Mika's genome with thousands of others. At first, they found nothing unusual. She was healthy, gifted, and highly trained, traits common in space. Service officers. But a deeper scan of her neural patterns revealed a rare neurological configuration. A cluster of bioelectrical rhythms in her brainstem matched the same harmonic frequency as the structure's pulse. Her mind, without her knowing, had synced to the underground signal. She wasn't alone. Across Earth, others began coming forward, individuals reporting vivid dreams, momentary feelings of weightlessness, or hearing sounds no one else could. All shared similar traits: calm under pressure, heightened spatial reasoning, and a near-perfect adaptation to changing environments. Some were scientists, others soldiers. A few were farmers or teachers. It didn't seem to matter where they came from. What mattered was that something inside them was resonating. Dr. Lynn Arivalo called it the human equation, a convergence of traits that had quietly evolved over generations, possibly triggered by exposure to unknown stimuli or by Earth's own natural development. She presented her findings to Earth's High Council with a calm but undeniable warning. "This structure may not be alien at all," she said. "It may be a part of Earth, and it's only now beginning to recognize us." Elsewhere in the galaxy, the reactions were mixed. Younger civilizations reached out to Earth with curiosity and offers of support. But others, especially those that had long depended on Illyrian guidance, began to grow wary. The term second spark began appearing in distant data streams. Some feared Earth was becoming a focal point of instability. In the assembly, the Illyrians remained quiet. They sent no reply to Earth's direct messages. Their ships still avoided Sol. But for the first time, a fragment of their ancient archive was voluntarily shared through a third-party delegate. The document, older than most known species, referenced a seed world, one built or chosen to house a living equation and experiment, not in weapons, but in evolution. A world meant to grow on its own, far from influence. If true, Earth had never been a random planet. It had been designed, or at least watched, for something greater. Commander Aiden Cross, now coordinating Earth's interstellar defense, reviewed the data alongside military and scientific leaders. "If we were shaped for something," he said, "then that something is waking up." Meanwhile, at the Antarctic site, Mika stood once again at the edge of the structure. This time, she did not merely approach it, she touched it. The hum stopped all across the planet. The pulse ceased for 13 seconds. Every monitor flatlined. Every scanner fell silent. Then the rhythm returned, new, steady, and unmistakably musical. Not chaotic, not threatening. It was as if the planet had exhaled. Mika's voice cracked through her suits. "Come, I think. It knows me now." Somewhere deep below, beneath stone and time, Earth's legacy stirred, and above, in the quiet corners of space, the Illyrians' watched hand waited. For the first time in living memory, the Illyrians called a closed meeting of their high circle. Their vessels had remained in the shadows of the outer stars, far beyond Earth's reach. But now they faced a decision they could no longer postpone. Before them stood an undeniable truth. The signal had changed. Earth's pulse, once dormant and stable, was now alive, connected, and reactive. The change coincided with direct contact from a human. Not just any human, but one who bore the equation, as the Illyrians once called it. The last time they had observed such resonance, the results had been catastrophic. The High Circle convened. In their crystalline sanctum, a place of memory and projection, ancient echoes of their species' first rise through the stars shimmered along the chamber walls. For millennia, they had guided younger civilizations with patience and care, always stepping in before a potential threat could rise. But Earth was different. "This world," said Elder Celian, one of the Circle's oldest voices, was never meant to wake. "The fault is not theirs," replied Elder Nera, her voice like wind over water. "They did not choose the seed. They only grew as they were meant to." "Their growth is accelerating," Celian warned. "They reach too far, too fast. If we do nothing, then we allow them the chance to choose." Nera interrupted gently. "What we did before, we acted in fear. And we lost a world to silence. That world, long forgotten by most, had once shown signs like Earth's resonant structures, harmonic signals, evolving minds. The Illyrians had intervened, attempting to halt the process. The result was a chain reaction that unmade not only the planet, but a portion of space itself. It had not been destruction, but unmaking reality bent around itself, collapsed, and folded into silence. Since then, they had watched, but never interfered again. Now, Earth stood at the edge of the same path. But the humans, unlike others before them, had not awakened the power through conquest or blind invention. They had listened, they had adapted, and they had changed. Back on Earth, the Council met daily. More people like Mika Tran were being identified individuals whose neural harmonics aligned with the global pulse. They were appearing across continents, across cultures, and every time one came close to the structure, it responded more easily. Dr. Lynn Aravallo stood before the Global Assembly, presenting the latest findings. "We're not controlling it," she said plainly. "We're syncing with it. This structure is not a weapon. It's not a machine. It's a threshold. It recognizes us as part of itself, just as much as we recognize it now as part of our world." In orbit, the Horizon Wind received an encoded message from a Serenian diplomat. The Illyrians had spoken, indirectly. The window narrows. One path leads to harmony. The other, to silence. Let them choose, and we shall watch. Commander Aiden Cross reviewed the message with caution. "They're giving us a chance," he said, "but it's not permission. It's a test." As the Antarctic structure continued to awaken, subtle shifts occurred elsewhere. Magnetic poles began to oscillate more frequently. Gravity fields warped slightly at certain points on the planet. Atmospheric readings showed unusual particles forming particles that didn't exist in Earth's known periodic table. The Earth itself was preparing. Mika Tran, now joined by others like her, stood within the structure's chamber for the first time. The walls, once cold and silent, shimmered with pale blue light. Symbols lit up along the floor, symbols that translated into something simple. "Ready when you are." In the stars above, Illyrian vessels held position. They would not step in. Not yet. They had made that mistake once. Now, they would see if Earth would succeed where the last world had failed. Humanity stood before the unknown, not as children or invaders, but as heirs to a legacy they never knew was theirs. The pulse had changed. What began as a simple rhythmic vibration had evolved into something more, something complex, structured, and almost melodic. Across Earth, instruments recorded variations that mimicked mathematical sequences, sound patterns, even language. Though no single message could be translated, one thing became increasingly clear. The signal wasn't random. It was intelligent inside the subterranean chamber in Antarctica. Mika Tran and her team stood among illuminated walls, now pulsing in sync with their brainwaves. The once inert surface rippled with patterns whenever they moved, thought, or spoke. The structure was listening, responding, learning above them. In a secure observation room, Dr. Lynn Aravallo watched with equal parts awe and unease. "The structure's behavior mimics neural response," she said into the open channel. "It's not just a machine, it's a form of consciousness. One that seems to be waking up the more we interact with it." The word waking echoed across research centers worldwide. As Earth continued monitoring, a new signal suddenly emerged. Not from the ground, but from space. A low-frequency transmission broadcast from deep within the solar system. It was faint, barely detectable, but unmistakably linked to the structure. The frequency was a match. Commander Aiden Cross, now leading orbital defense coordination from the Horizon Wind, reviewed the readings. The signal was a near-perfect mirror of Earth's own pulse. "It's bouncing," he said. "Something out there is responding." The response came from far beyond Pluto's orbits, somewhere in the Kuiper Belt. A region once thought empty now glowed faintly on long-range scans. A dormant satellite? A relay? Or something even older, waiting for the right signal to be reactivated? The Council authorized a deep space probe. As the drone moved into position, it captured its first image, a massive structure buried beneath, a drifting cloud of ice and dust, octagonal in shape, with markings eerily similar to the ones beneath Antarctica. When the Earth's pulse reached it, the structure flared to life. The signal that came back was different this time. It was coordinated. It was loud, and it was heard by more than just Earth. Across the galaxy, long dormant beacons flickered awake. Ancient monoliths buried in distant moons began to emit the same tone. One by one, planets scattered across the stars responded not with words, but with resonance. The assembly panicked. What had started as an earthbound anomaly was now a galactic event. Delegates demanded answers. Questions poured into Earth's diplomatic channels. Had humanity activated something? Was it a weapon? A warning? Or worse, was it a call? And yet, amid the uncertainty, the Illyrians still did not interfere. Their ships remained at the edge of human space. Silent and UNMOVING, Ambassador Jorah Marin stood before the Galactic Assembly. Calm despite the tension crackling through the chamber. "We did not build these structures," she said. "We did not call this signal, but we are listening. We are learning, and we will not run from our place in it." Some listened, others doubted, but none could deny what they saw. Humanity standing firm at the heart of a mystery, older than the assembly itself, back on Earth, in the chamber beneath Antarctica. The core of the structure began to open. What emerged was not a machine, but a projection shimmering strands of energy that swirled into a vast lattice, forming something akin to a star map. Only this map showed paths between systems long forgotten, connections between worlds that had never met, a network dormant for millennia at its center. One node pulsed brighter than all the rest. Earth Mika stared at the projection. "This isn't a warning," she whispered. "It's an invitation." From space, the second signal surged, this time in all directions. The network had awakened. The question was no longer whether Earth was ready. It was whether the galaxy was. The network had awakened. Across the stars, the once silent nodes of the ancient system began to glow, like sparks reigniting a long-forgotten constellation. Each point on the map responded to Earth's pulse, creating a lattice of harmony stretching across the galaxy. But it was more than communication, it was alignment. A system rebalancing itself around something newly active. Earth, within the subterranean chamber beneath Antarctica. The structure's full form had revealed itself. Beneath ice and stone lay a spherical Koran engine of light and resonance, now humming with the synchronized energy of hundreds of worlds. The projections formed dynamic patterns in the air, shifting star charts and moving corridors of light that responded to thought, emotion, and even memory. Mika Tran stood at its center, joined by 12 others who had been identified across Earth. Together, they formed the first human resonance team, individuals whose minds could interface with the pulse without harm. The structure reacted gently to them, not as intruders, but as long-awaited visitors. "We're not activating a weapon," Mika said aloud, her voice calm. "We're activating a choice." At the same moment, in orbit above Earth, Commander Aiden Cross received an unexpected transmission. This time, it came from the Illyrians. The message was short. You have reached the threshold. What happens next must be yours to decide. We will neither guide nor obstruct. Stunned silence followed the message. It was the first time in recorded history the Illyrians had deferred to a younger species at such a turning point. Ambassador Jorah Merrin addressed the council one final time. We were watched, feared, even avoided. But now we know the truth. Earth wasn't an accident. It was part of a plan older than the Assembly. The Illyrians weren't afraid of what we were. They were afraid of repeating their past, but we are not them. We are something new. In the Antarctic chamber, the final sequence began. The spherical core lifted silently into the air, surrounding Mika and her team in a field of soft, shimmering light. Around them, reality shimmered brief flickers of unknown places, alien skies, and structures not built by human hands. Some images lasted only moments. Others lingered, as if waiting for recognition. One scene showed a city made of crystal, growing out of an ocean of stars. Another revealed a planet where forests floated above golden clouds. Another showed a world cracked in half, still alive, still orbiting a small, dim sun. These were not visions. They were destinations, gateways, the network Earth had activated. Was not just a communication grid. It was a transportation system, a network designed to connect civilizations across time and space once they were ready. And now, Earth had passed the test. The final projection resolved into a steady, spiraling symbol. A single doorway made of light. Mika took a deep breath. We can step through, she said, but we don't have to. The chamber quieted. No alarms, no pressure, no countdown, just choice. All across the world, leaders, scientists, and citizens watched live as Earth's first contact team stood before the activated portal. The pulse went strange and distant now, felt like part of humanity itself. After a long pause, Mika smiled and turned toward the camera. We've always looked to the stars for answers. But maybe we were the answer all along. Then she stepped forward. The light expanded around her team. Manned, the doorway opened. From orbit, satellites captured the moment as a wave of energy rippled across Earth. Harmless, yet brilliant, as if the planet itself had sighed with relief. The network accepted Earth's response. The signal stabilized. And then, it welcomed others. New pulses began to echo across the stars, not from Earth, but from other worlds now waking. The great silence was ending. Not with noise, not with war, but with connection. The Illyrians watched from afar, saying nothing. But this time, they smiled. Earth had not become the threat they feared. It had become the bridge they hoped for.